Hello there, everyone. This is Mr. Brass, and today I am here with my good old friend, Eric the Philosophy Tiger. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very, very well. So it's been a week. It's there's been some developments this week, so I know that we're gonna go ahead and basically talk about one of the developments. It's a sad development, and it's something that we just hope that no parent ever has to go through. Mike's to you.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about the incident where a 5-year-old little boy got killed by a grown man. The little boy got shot in the head. Uh, let me see. Let me get this on there. All right. People see this?
No, I see it.
Yeah, you see the article?
I see it there. I see it pretty well. If you I can't I know it's going to be okay on a PC. I'm on my phone, so if you want to go ahead and read that, then I'll comment here and there.
Yeah. Police, North Carolina man faces murder charge in shooting death of 5-year-old boy. This is by US Today, Jordan Calver. And basically, it starts off like this: a North Carolina man faces a first-degree murder charge in the shooting death of a 5-year-old boy who, according to local media reports, was riding a bike in his neighborhood. Police arrested Darius Sessoms, 25, on Monday after a brief search. The child, identified as Cannon Hintant, was shot Sunday evening in Wilson, North Carolina, according to police. He was taken to a local hospital where he later died. The Wilson Police Department sends its sincerest condolences and prayers to the family of Cannon during this tragic time, WPD said in a news release. Sossoms was located inside a residence in Goldsboro, North Carolina, police said. Goldsboro is about 30 minutes south of Winston, and which is 50 miles east of the state's capital of Raleigh. The kids are in shock. Family says 6 children were home when Florida woman was fatally shot by ex-boyfriend. Oh, that's a different story. The Wilson Police Department would like to thank the U.S. Marshals Carolina's Violent Fugitive Task Force, Goldsboro Police Department, and Wayne County Sheriff's Department for their assistance in apprehending Sessoms, the Wilson Police Department said in a news release. Few details about the police shooting have been made available by the police. U.S. Today requested summons arrest report from the Wilson Police Department. A spokesman for the department provided a link to a police website which listed Sessoms' Monday arrest but did not include his arrest report. The spokesman later provided an incident report to USA Today that didn't include any further details about Sessoms' arrest for the shooting. Sessoms has a court date for August 25th, according to the online reports. The Raleigh News and Observer reported Sessoms served 2 prison terms in 2017. The Wilson County District Court Judge John Britt told Sessoms during a virtual hearing on Tuesday that he has the right to represent himself, hire a lawyer, or he could ask for a court-appointed lawyer. Sessoms, who was being held in Wilson County Jail without bond, said he wanted to try to hire a lawyer. WRAL TV in North Carolina reported witnesses told Police Cannon was riding his bike outside his father's home when he was shot in the head. WRAL reported Cannon's funeral was on Thursday. Austin Hannon, Cannon's father, told the police station he and Sessoms were neighbors for 8 years. There wasn't anything between me and him, any bad blood whatsoever for him to have reason to do this, Hinton told the outlet. And that's it for so far.
So basically, just to let people know how this kind of works, is that in certain states, and I don't know how the Carolinas work, they work very close, very similar to each other. So basically, the body has to be put through an autopsy. We know what happened, everything like that. It's really the paperwork that has to be generated, because obviously you can't have the body in a court, but we can have the report. And so basically, what is happening right here is we also have to handle the fact that they have to write a what they call a charging affidavit. And what a charging affidavit really is it's a sworn statement by the police, signed in front of a notary. And that charging affidavit is recommended charges. I don't know how many are on there. It could be 2, it could be 3, it could be 1. I don't know, because we don't have that charging affidavit right now. But what we do have is the fact that he will likely have first-degree murder or second-degree murder. Now, if he does have first-degree murder, he will qualify for the death penalty, which under those states, I believe most states are right now are lethal injection, and I have to look up what the Carolinas do. So basically, what this will probably end in is a plea deal. Most cases do not go to trial. If he goes for plea deal instead of trial, if that is approved, it possibly could lower the charge to the next one down, or maybe a couple steps down. But the guy is definitely going to do some hardcore time. He's going to do in the Carolinas. He's definitely going to do at least 20 years. Because it's a little boy, I believe it's going to be about 30, at least, if not life. That is basically the rundown that we're going to have for now. I am going to go ahead and look for public information on that, and we'll have those records as soon as we can. I think what's the other technical stuff? Oh yeah, and so we have the 2 kids that are witnesses. And so in court, because this is a criminal trial, in a criminal court, the judge can unilaterally issue an order of no contact, which means if the defendant wants to have any contact at all, it has to go through the attorney, and it has to be for certain things. It could be for, let's say, for a subpoena of records or whatever, that kind of stuff. Depending on what the context is, that's like basically the only kind of contact. So let's let's keep in mind too that the mother, outside of the technical realm, the mother is in mourning. Uh, the U.S., including me, are really pissed off. Our emotions are kind of running high, especially with a lot of the loss we've occurred with everything else this year that's been crazy. Plus, we have a little boy that has been violated. So, and it's one of those things where, what is the world coming to?
Yeah, I mean, what's been horrendous is the fact that not many news outlets have been covering this story. When we know if the skin colors were reversed, it would be headline news.
Yeah. And, go ahead.
I mean, could you imagine what the news would be like if we found out that a white 25-year-old man went up and shot a 5-year-old black kid in the head, and killed the kid?
Yeah, they'd be all over it.
Yeah, it would be completely covered by everyone, but because the kid isn't of the kid and the perpetrator aren't of the right race, the news just doesn't want to cover it.
Yeah, and so it's really sad that it comes down to individuals like us, comes down to other YouTubers. I'm not a YouTuber. I watch YouTube once in a while, but I'm not a YouTuber. I don't get into that stuff. But there should be YouTubers out there that can get these records, or the public records that are available. And one of the big things I'm going to try and do is, and I'm going to take this on myself, hopefully in the next couple of months, so we can cover this more thoroughly, is to get as many documents as possible, and more the salient documents. And what I'm important, basically, the salient documents would be charging affidavit, the autopsy report, and another salient piece of information for personal reasons is if the family does release the grave site, I would like to go ahead and add that in there to whatever we can muster, so that way if someone wants to send flowers to the grave site, there are services for that. And also, I think if they are renting a plot for the child, then you can also, depending on which company you're with, they'll accept cards and letters and things like that. I mean, they're not gonna accept big packages, but they'll be like, hey, a letter came in for condolences and things like that. They'll let the family know, that kind of stuff. So we'll try and we'll work that out somehow. It's kind of a raw. We're going at this raw, so we don't know. I really don't know what's going to be the development yet.
Yeah, I mean, we don't really know about what's going to come of the kid, what they're going to do with his body. I don't know if they're going to bury him or if they're going to cremate him. Either one they could reasonably do. What's interesting to find out is that the father and the murderer actually knew each other for about 8 years and were neighbors at one point.
Now, that's going to be the interesting thing right there, is because the detectives have to thoroughly. Some people will be like, well, why is it the guy? Why do these court cases go on so long? Well, they're going to open the court case. but they're still going to have to go in and find out what kind of connection these guys have. We don't know, because if there was actually bad blood, if there was bad blood between them, and there's some, and I'm praying to God that there isn't something like that. But if there is, the dad could be held liable, and that will tear the family apart. So this is, getting to the non-technical side, just getting to the personal side. There's a lot of factors that could actually happen if if he was getting involved with the wrong person and no crime was committed. That still could be a grounds for divorce, for alimony, for kids going with a mom, dad no longer seeing the kids. There's a lot of damage that could happen with that. I'm not speculating. I'm not blaming him or anything like that. If there was, and if there wasn't, if the better scenario happens, it's not a good scenario, but the better scenario where he's kind of completely, if it was just like saying hi neighbor, whatever, and bye neighbor, if that was the case, then they still would have buried their kid. The mom and dad are going to have traumatized kids for life. And they're not going to see their little brother anymore. And that's the, how do I say this without choking up? Parents don't want to bury their kids. They want to be buried by their kids. Now that's sad if a kid has to bury their parent, but it's
more natural.
Yeah, the kid is, he should have been able to bury his own parents, and he should have been able to grow up and do and bend something. This guy who is very young, who's 25, and at the age of 25, even now for me, at my age, I still have a lot of life in me. At 25, he should be already going into a master's degree program, going into a specialized program to deal with the trade or whatever. This man has, let's just say, on the off chance a technicality happens and they screw up and he gets off, quote, and I'm pray to God that doesn't happen, but weird things have happened in courts. If that does happen, he will never, ever, ever be able to go much anywhere in the state of North Carolina or South Carolina. He will have to go about 3 states over, and even then, his name is going to be plastered all over the internet. I don't like even found guilty of found not guilty of due to technicalities, his life is over. So he has really destroyed the lives of the lives of 3 kids, a mother, and a father. To me, there's just no, I can rant on this all day. There is no reason to hurt a 5-year-old kid. That right there is repulsive.
Yes, precisely. And even if the father and the man had bad blood, that would not, in my opinion, give him any right to go after the guy's children. I mean, at best, that would only give him maybe some right to go after the father, but that would not give him any right to go after the children. They didn't do anything.
Yeah, what's a 5-year-old going to do? A 5-year-old wants to go on a bike, and now I may be wrong, and I'm going to go ahead and say a high maybe. Very probably I'm wrong on this, but through the grapevine, and I'm saying it through a grapevine, and I don't like a whole lot of gossip, but I'm getting fuzzy information here. Through the grapevine, it was the kid may have caused some grass damage. I can tell you right now, if you have grass damage because of a child riding a bike, go to Home Depot or Lowe's and get a few squares. That's it. I promise. And then you know what? You want to know how you deal with that too? Go up to the parents, tell them how much it was, and they let the parents go ahead and discipline the child. That's how you do it. None of this would have happened if you would have gone that way. Wow.
I mean, if I may say so myself, I think shooting a kid in the head because he damaged your grass is a bit much.
That's an understatement.
Yeah, I'm just saying, blowing a kid's brains out because he happened to damage your lawn or whatever. I don't really think that there's any lawn that's that good where it justifies shooting a kid in the head.
Yeah, and so it's so that said, it's they're, like I say, guys, you're gonna get a lot of fuzzy information right now. Emotions are high strung. Derek and I are kind of high strung on this too, and I guarantee you go on my Twitter, which is new actually. I'm kind of cussing a guy out for kind of messing with that little piece right there. It's a sore toe for me. And so there is basically here's my thing with this is that I know people that are involved on this, or you're high strung, you want vengeance. Wait till the documents come out. Wait till the documents come out so you can be cooled down, and when they come out and they're public through the court, then that is when you can kind of get a clearer picture of what happened, even though it may not be totally clear, but it's going to be clearer. And that's where I'm going to go ahead and so the more salient documents, I'll go ahead and see if I can buy some copies if I need to go ahead and do it manually, because the Carolinas are just not up to date with 21st century technology. It's just not going to happen that way. But
they're not even up to date with 20th century technology.
Yeah, and I think one of the things about those courts is you actually have to. I have to get the case number. I'll have to get the case number, and then I'm gonna have to call them first, get the case number, and then but if I may actually take a drive out there because it's one of those things where it's just with the Carolinas, it's just easier to be there on spot, and so I think it's good to just to remind people, hey, there are bad people out there. Watch your kids.
I know. I mean, well, this guy apparently had a record beforehand. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't think they answered in the article what he was in jail for before, but I think it just. I wonder how he got. Like, did he serve his time and get out, or did they let him go because of the COVID thing?
I don't know. That's a speculation. So I would play it. Like I say, it's fuzzy information, but we can go down that road. If it's COVID, the state could be sued very badly. a very bad thing. It's the state's fault. So that would be a civil lawsuit, and that can hammer. And the state is just going to have to pay out on that one. There's just no way for them to do whatever. Now, if he served time, that would be interesting. How much, I don't know. And then there's also a thing called time served or suspended sentence. And now if he had suspended sentence, they're just going to go ahead and add that. They're going to say, you know what, suspended sentence is the suspension is vacated. They're going to basically vacating a suspension means the punishment is going to be activated, and they will just add it into the extra the sentence that he's going to get. So I don't know where that one's either going to be. It's a guess, man. I don't know. I'm pissed off at this one.
I know it is very upsetting to see. I mean, especially since it was such a young little boy. I mean, although I know some people, they like to say, "Well, you're just bringing it up because it's a white person." No, I'm bringing it up because it's a kid. They got killed for no reason.
Yeah, and another thing that has to be very, just to let people know my human side, I lived through a school shooting. I wasn't, if I would have just gone through around the corner, I would have been hit. I found out that the kid was around the corner, and then I saw kids crying going toward me, and I'm like, I'm out that way. Where they're going, I'm going. I'm not laughing because it's funny, haha, but it was an experience. And so it's like it's a sore point, and it's a sore point because I lost a 14-year-old friend at that time. Let's see, how old was he? He just joined. He's 14. I was like 16 at that time, so I'd have been a junior. I would have been a junior at that time, and he would have been a freshman. And he wanted to be an engineer and everything like that. His mom moved here from the Philippines, and he was second generation here, and so it kind of goes. People have to remember, we're in the day of technology where people are like, well, I don't say stupid shit. It's like, well, like that person on there, yo or whatever. It's like, no, dude, it's like you're stepping on toes with people that have a mixed bag of emotions. And so just in this general vicinity, if you see someone kind of getting upset on something like this, give them some space. I guarantee you there's a point to where you just stop. And now if you see this family, stop. You can say, my condolences or whatever, but if they're not open to talk at that point, it's okay. Let them go.
But hey, man, just remember BLM.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Remember, they destroyed so much, man. They were, wow. And it's like with them, I remember them trying to showcase some white kids where they were kind of protesting about that. But I'm like, okay, dude, every single time you do crap, it's on misinformation. Your whole movement is based on misinformation. So what is my pride? My pride as a researcher, every single time when I actually sit down and try to do some research on a topic, is to make sure that I get the nitty gritty right. And that's the reason why I'm very in this point, because I don't have a whole lot of information on the case that we have before us. It's I can only speculate which ways it will go, and the full story is going to have to play itself out, and that's just how you and I roll on this, and we'll we'll get it when we get it.
Yeah, I mean, I know that recently there has been a bit of a thing with the Black Hebrew Israelites.
I haven't kept up with them yet.
Good. They're pretty awful.
What happened with them?
They're just on their usual stick like usual.
Yeah, there was, get it. This is a little lighter of a topic. I'm going to jump onto that just so we can kind of get a breather off of this thing. And I'm not in any way, shape, or form dismissing that case. It's very serious, but we can only talk about that so much, and then we're just gonna go cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. But anyways, going on to the Black Hebrew Israelites. I had a friend of mine who, Ben Stanhope. Ben Stanhope, he actually had a little scuffle with them, and all they had with Ben Stanhope, and Ben Stanhope, he's pretty thorough with his research, and all they had with him was very stupid little links where I'm like they're trying to say, well, this word means black. I'm like, yeah. Back then, if you were out in the sun, your olive skin would be very dark. And Bedouin culture, they have very dark skin. Doesn't mean they're African.
Well, you have to remember, man, they were kings.
We was kings.
Yeah, I brought it up because they seem to be getting more grounds, and I'm hoping that that's not what this guy was into, because Black Hebrew Israelites, they aren't pretty known for being racist.
Yeah, they are. But it's kind of my thing is we have so much information on Hebraic. Give me 1 second. I was chomping down on the Chex Mix. But yay for COVID, not. I think one of the big things that they like to do is they'll try to say how the Hebrews were African originally and whatever, but they forgot. They really forget that the original Hebrews, the way the Bible describes it, is they were from the Mesopotamian area, and so if and I do believe like they were down in Egypt, but the Hebrew Bible does use hyperbole. So that being said, that's just natural across the board for a lot of the literature in the Middle East. Welcome to it. That's what you got to deal with. But when they got down in there, you have to remember that Egypt was an empire, and there was multiple people from all over the known world being involved in that area. And so what happens there is there might have been conversions from into the Hebrew religion from, let's say, Ethiopia. It could have happened. I'm not saying it did, but we do know that Moses' wife was Ethiopian. So it wasn't. So in their minds, in the Hebraic mindset, they didn't really give a crap about race. They didn't. Yeah, go ahead, and you would. I think I'm going to let you have the mic because I've been going on. I'm going to drop it on this one.
Well, I mean, this whole notion of race is actually pretty new. It goes back to the Enlightenment. I mean, the ancient people had some notion of race, but not the sort of biological racism that we know of today. That was not a thing back in the ancient times.
Yeah.
I mean, even when it comes to slavery, the entire notion that you could get someone of a different race than you to do your bidding is actually pretty recent. It only comes about because of the fact we advanced so far in technology we could afford to travel to distant lands and bring people back. Back then, they didn't have that option. They could only enslave people in their own local area.
Yeah, and something that's also very important too is that when it talks about a separation of peoples right there, if you really read the text carefully, it's not talking about race. It's talking about religious purity, not racial purity in the Old Testament. So it's not a good idea for that Black Hebrew Israelites to actually do that kind of crap. I can laugh at it. It's so dumb.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm really hoping that, I'm really hoping that the kid can get his justice. Because I think this whole thing is unexcusable. I mean, we're already swirling down the toilet of society right now, and this is just adding another trouble to this already bad year. Race tensions are at an all-time high. And it doesn't seem like it's going to get any better from here.
Here's my thing is I keep on. Everybody's saying, well, the American Republic will survive. It's done this, it's done that, and blah blah blah. I'm like, no. We've seen the Roman Empire go through not exactly this, but something similar, and to gain complete control during the chaos. That is when you start seeing empires build, because this is, either the society completely falls apart, and it has happened, but then there are people that that are charismatic, like Julius Caesar, and Augustus Caesar, who indeed had that charisma, and they were likable men. They were very, very likable, and they built the empire, and they really made it what it was.
You mean god Julius Caesar?
Huh?
You mean the god Julius Caesar?
Oh yeah, but he was a likable guy. No, really, you read about him. He was likable. I'm not saying he would be your buddy, but he was a likable guy.
Well, let's just say this. He got kidnapped one time, and he told the crew that They better hope that he doesn't get out, because if he does, they would all be crucified. They laughed at him. Guess what? He got rescued, and all the men got crucified.
Tells you something. And so, but that still goes to it. He, as a whole, on the personal level, and I like to get into the more personal side of them. I don't really like to go into the war stuff, which you would know more about. But on a personal side, he was very likable. He had he was very charismatic. He knew hospitality. He knew he knew classics and things like that. So, but he was, but also it was very cool if you actually, he has two books, the Civil War and the Gallic War, and both of them are written in a very simple Latin. He was, his whole thing was to actually appease the common man. So he trained himself to actually write and speak in a more common way. Not saying that he couldn't speak to the aristocracy. He really could. He was a good orator, but he could get down to the nitty gritty, and so the scary part is we are in a position right now that I would say within a president, 2, maybe 3, we might actually see an American Julius Caesar come up. And I'm just speculating, but someone that's very charismatic, that can unite the country and expand its power. And that people are going to love that.
Well, I mean,
love it.
Trump.
What's that?
I mean, we already have Trump.
We do, but he's kind of like the fun guy, and they had like kind of a fun sort of leader in with the Kings, and they also like as Livy records, and then there were some fun senators, but I'm talking about the ones that can actually unite the country, not just have fun, not just worry about the economy, but I mean expand the empire. So we do the United States does have an empire in a way, but I'm talking about an empire where you're talking about a kind of like the empire proper, and that could happen. So to warn people, and I'm going to warn people on this, and is if you don't want to lose your republic, if you do not want to lose your republic, read John Adams, because he actually warns how to make the Constitution effective. He even the deists at that time, and Derek is deist. I'm Calvinist. Even the deists at that time expected the people that were gonna be using that Constitution to be a moral and religious people. Right now, that basically we have a document that's paper. It doesn't do anything.
I mean, yeah, that was a big thing with deists back then. I mean, even Thomas Paine was like that as well, where he advocated that there had to be a moral system to go with the Constitution. Because without the moral system, the Constitution is worthless.
And so if you look at it, it's crazy. I'm not going to go into the news that we already dealt with, because I've already chewed someone out on that one. I don't want to be a hypocrite. I was gonna, but I'm going to restrain myself. So basically we have what we have today is more and more and more and more people saying, We don't want this history because it's offensive. We don't want this history because we don't want these statues because it's offensive. We don't want this because it's offensive. Or this. I promise you guys. I really promise them. There's going to be a day that there's going to be that silent majority, just like in the time of Rome, just like when the Roman Empire was first firing up. There's going to be that charismatic person. It's not like Trump. I'm talking about a person that can really get rid of corruption, like Julius Caesar and Augustus. They really cleaned house. I know Julius Caesar got murdered, but Augustus was there, and he lived to an old age. By the time with Augustus being that second generation right there, that second generation of charismatic leaders that are very likable, you finally had a unity, and that political correctness was gone. But at the same time, they transformed it from being a republic to the Senate having quasi, kind of that bridge kind of power, but the ultimate power laid in one man. So it was really a tyranny for the next few hundred years. So we are headed down that way, and that's the reason why it's so important for people to know their history, and yet they are saying, I don't like reading. And then I just to end it right here, I remember my brother who dealt with a person that was a guard, and this guard would just bob his head back and forth, and he just asked, he's like, what's going through your head? And he said, oh, nothing. My brother was like, he's like, I believe you. So yeah, that's the type of people we're producing right now.
Pretty much. I mean, the bad side is people have no sense of moral culpability. Like, it's not, people confuse moral culpability with moral relativism when they're two different things. Moral culpability is, how much blame can we assign a person for getting the wrong answer in terms of a moral question? How culpable are they? I mean, it's sort of like with science in a way. Like, how much am I going to blame Aristotle for getting the question about heliocentrism versus geocentrism wrong? How much am I going to blame him for that? So I think that's what people need to put into there, a sense of moral culpability, and take into consideration people's time frame.
Yeah, and go ahead.
Yeah, and what information that they had with them at the time.
Mm-hmm. And I'm really tired of this thing where they will go ahead and tell us, what was a good one? Anything, what do they call it? Cultural appropriation, that thing that was kind of raging a few years ago until it kind of got hammered down. I mean, it's here and there, but you don't hear about it too much.
I mean, they talk about cultural appropriation, but yet they have no problem with a man wearing a woman's dress or whatever. Isn't that, by definition, a man appropriating women culture?
Yeah. But then they went ahead and contradicted themselves and talked about transracial or whatever. What was that? What was the name of that one lady? She lost her job and everything because they found out she was whiter than milk in a snowstorm.
I'm not sure who that was, but I know that stuff's common.
Yeah, and she got money from the NAACP. There's a lot of things that came out about her. I forgot her name. She did a perm, and then she got a kind of a fake tan. And one of the things that they were trying to defend her by coining transracial or trans race or whatever. I'm like, no. How this is my thing too with the American Republic is we're going to lose it if people don't start realizing you do need and I'm not saying to praise every single person, but you do need to have some sort of self-responsibility
and structure.
Mm-hmm. And so that's
Yeah, I mean, you're getting into psychology yourself, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. I'm actually reading through the book, and I'm reading through that book. I'm underlining here and there, and I'm also looking at the references to find if there's any kind of good references that are, we can't read it all. So I'm just trying to pick like a good reference for each chapter, and so they have that right there. So I just have to look into that.
Yeah, I mean, of course, they're always going to want you to look into psychology because that's where a lot of the transgenderism stuff comes from.
Yeah, and well, here's a problem that a lot of people don't realize is, well, do politics actually play a role in the DSM publications? Yeah, they do actually. And so I remember when they were gonna lighten the issue on pedophilia, and that right there was a no-no. People, there was a lot of blowback on that one,
and not in a good way.
Yeah, I didn't mean the pun on that one, but so here's it comes down to the fact that the DSM, some people will be like, well, why would you talk about the cluster A, B, and C on this one? I really actually do believe there are some wonderful things that were updated in there that have made it actually very much easier to explain this stuff. So cluster A's are basically your cluster C's are your kind of your busybodies, and then you have your cluster A's, which are your kind of your paranoids, and both of those already know that they're crazy, so they get that. But then you have your cluster Bs, which are your erratics, your destructive, such as your psychopaths, your sociopaths. And so my interest is really the cluster Bs, and they are fascinating. They're very fascinating. Your borderline personality disorders, and your.
I think it is good to remember though, like for people that don't know this, but not all psychopaths are violent people.
Yeah, but but we have to do okay. So not all psychopaths. Psychopathy does not equal violent. You can be a psychopath and not be violent. Although, and here's a caveat: a quarter of the prison population in Canada has psychopathy. So let me. I think this is where there are some people that'll say a person's a sociopath or a person's a psychopath. They are different. And so basically, your psychopaths, a psychopath basically can be charismatic. They can be very likable, but there's kind of a honeymoon there. And your psychopaths don't have the empathy. They don't have the emotional connections that we would have. And in fact, why there are times where autistic people have issues with emotional connection, but they can be trained for that. You can't train a psychopath. You just can't. It is what it is, and that's how you have to take it. or not. I'm hoping you don't. Sociopath. Oh, yeah, sorry. And psychopaths, before I go to psychopaths are indeed born. That is the consensus right there. They're highly likely born, and there is something genetically deficient with them. But the big thing is that most parents don't catch the psychopathy early enough, and they don't know how to curve the behavior before it starts erupting into what becomes kind of famous, what it becomes famous for. Should I go on a sociopath?
Sure.
Okay, so sociopath, and I love issues in cluster B. A sociopath is basically your sociopaths are basically made. They may have. They're not. There's a way to kind of differentiate them. They do act similar sometimes, but your sociopaths tend to have a lot less control. They tend to, they don't have the empathy, but they can, sometimes they might be empathetic to maybe one or two people in their life, very in love with them and whatnot, protective or whatever. But it's kind of a twisted kind of love, so to speak. So that's the sociopath, just like the psychopath, thinks you're kind of, unless they're, the sociopath kind of thinks you're kind of the toy thing, whereas psychopath can think you're a toy kind of thing, but they can be, if it's curved at the beginning of being diagnosed early as a kid, you can kind of, or you see those elements as they're a kid, you can kind of curve that. You can usually psychopaths look at it more like, okay, you're an emotional being. I have no connection with you. I'm just dealing with you because I gotta. That's it. And I'm going to get something out of it. And most of them out there are going to be like, I'm going to play you. I'm going to get what I want and see you later. Deuces. And I don't have any hard feelings. And if you do, I don't care. The sociopath, on the other hand, sociopaths can be very explosive. And that's because they have even though they have a shallow sort of emotion, a lot of times sociopaths are made because of abuse. It's real. They tend to come from very abusive situations. In fact, I had a student that was a sociopath the charges were dropped, but he was charged at the age of 20 as for sexual assault. I don't know why they would drop the charges, but whatever. The charges were dropped, and after that, it was like I didn't hear much about him, but except that the father. So what happened here is that he learned basically his violent behavior from his dad, who assaulted some sheriff deputies down in Port St. Lucie, and then in Florida, and so Port St. Lucie County, anyways. And then the mom kind of reinforced that. The mom, when I found out about the dad being tried multiple times, and then the mom is trying to make the kid to be this perfect angel. That's a recipe for disaster right there. So he grew up thinking that he can get away with anything whatsoever. Now, this does not make a sociopath, but that is a good recipe for one. And so if you see parents like that, and you see the kid having that lack of empathy around other children and trying to play them like little toys, you likely have your sociopath right there in that little kid.
Yeah. Well, we're coming up on the hour mark. Uh, so, uh, I don't want to go on too long. It's because it's burning up my room.
Okay, gotcha. And I think I'm going to go ahead and we just to cap it off. So because I know people will remember more from the beginning to the end. Sorry, more of the beginning and more of the end than the middle. Basically, just to sum it up, we kind of began with the murder of a 5-year-old boy. We kind of spoke our piece on that. We got onto a couple different topics, and then we ended here with some issues of psychology. And now I just want to go bring it back full circle, back to where it was. I am going to go ahead and keep an eye out for court documents. Don't expect me to be fast with it. I can only go as fast as the court's going to go, and the courts go slow.
Yeah. So basically, you can only go as slow as molasses.
Basically, molasses in molasses in January.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I had a good conversation. I think it was good to get this out there to talk about these news events. Yes. So I would like to thank everyone for watching this video. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, the like. And this is Mr. Brass and Philosophy Tiger saying goodbye and get wise.